Hello, my name is Ioannis Dizoglu. In this tutorial we are going to talk about this magic word, normalization. Normalization is the process we use in databases to actually construct the data in such a way that information will flow throughout the database without any issues. Also, normalization is the process we use in order to actually optimize our database in order to make it faster. Normalization brings fear to most of the people out there. However, the process of normalization is pretty straightforward. Hopefully by the end of this lesson I will be able to demonstrate this to you. By the end of this lesson you will be able to understand and explain to other people what 0NF is, otherwise known as unnormalized form. How to convert from 0NF to 1NF data, how to convert data from 1NF to 2NF, and how to convert data from 2NF to 3NF. I've got some subheaders here. NRA stands for no repeating attributes. Partial key dependency test, PKDT, non-key dependency test. Now, 0NF, unnormalized data, is the data we receive from the client. Usually, this data is on a text document or on an Excel document, on a spreadsheet. So as you can see here, the data is messy. This is because the data is not normalized yet. In order for me to normalize the 0NF, I need to follow one rule. And this rule is NRA. It stands for no repeating attributes. Now what's that mean, no repeating attributes? Each header we have on a flat file database, we call it attribute. So the first test we need to do is check if we have any repeating attributes. So I'm going to copy my 0NF, paste it here, and I'm going to go through the process of removing the no repeating attributes. As you can see here, I've got customer first name, customer surname, customer address, customer date of birth. As you can see, the attribute customer keeps repeats. So basically, it's shouting out loud, pick me up. I don't belong to this mess. I belong into my own entity, otherwise known as table. So if we highlight this section here, we have customer this and customer that and customer that, up to here, customer nationality. What I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the comma here. I'm going to press the enter key a couple times. And before here, above here, I'm just going to type TBL customer. And then I'm going to remove the repeating attributes. So I'm going to remove the word customer from here. I'm going to remove the word customer from here, from there, from there, from there, and so on and so forth. As you can see, by following from 0NF to 1NF, by following the rule no repeating attribute, here my attributes already start looking a bit more better, much better. So also what I'm going to do, because I'm using Microsoft Word, I can go here and capitalize its word to make it a bit more to make it more appropriate. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to continue now with non-repeating attributes. Here I've got cost staff, 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 staff. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure I'm going to go through. As you can see here, staff attendance is the last staff attribute I have. I'm going to press the enter key a couple times. And here I'm going to type TBL staff. Let's make this bold. Let's make this bold as well. And then I'm going to basically remove the repeating attributes. Staff, 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 and so on and so forth. Okay. I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to capitalize its word. I'm going to continue my no repeating attributes test process, and here I've got supplier. So I'm going to create a TBL supplier. So this is part of the non-repeating attributes. If an attribute keep repeats, it shouts out loud, pick me up, I do not belong here, I belong into my own entity, into my own table. So I'm going to remove that, the word supplier, 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 supplier postcode, and then I've got transactions. transactions, again, I can see that this attribute keep repeats. I'm going to create TBL transactions. Let's put transaction. And I'm going to delete the repeating attributes. And then I can see product keep repeating here. And I'm going to create another table, TBL product. Let's make this bold. Let's make this bold. So I have product, 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 and product. Now, as you can see, 0NF or normalized data. In order to convert or normalize data into 1NF, we need to follow the rule. And the rule is no repeating attributes. So what I did, I've removed all the repeating attributes and I place the attributes into correct table, into the correct entity. An entity is a table is an entity. An attribute is a field name, and a field name is an attribute. It's very important for you to actually remember this. I'm going to repeat this one more time. It's very important for you to remember that a table is an entity and an entity is a database table. It's exactly the same thing. We're just using two different terms to describe it. Another thing we use two terms to describe it is attributes. An attribute is a field name and a field name is an attribute. It's exactly the same thing. Okay, now I have normalized the data from 0NF to 1NF. I'm going to copy all this data and I'm going to go through another test. And the next test I need to go through is partial key dependency test. Before we go ahead though, because we are on the first NF, first normal form, we must apply a unique identifier. So I'm going to create an ID field there for each table. This is the first thing we must do when once we have converted data into 1NF. And we can actually put this here as well. Now, we add in an ID field because we want to uniquely identify its record. For example, first name could be David and surname could be White. Now, David White is quite popular name, so the ID will basically allow us to choose the correct David White, because this ID field will be unique, a unique identifier for each record. Scroll down. Now, let's go and talk about partial key dependency test. Now we are going to convert 1NF to 2NF. In order to do this, we are going to follow the partial key dependency test, otherwise known as PKDT. Now, in order for me to do this, I need to make sure that I'm going to ask the right question. And the question is, does the attribute belongs to the entity? Now, let's put here the question, does the attribute belong to the entity table? That's the first question I need to ask. If the answer is yes, no further action is needed. However, if the answer is no, I must create a new entity. With this attribute and ID. will also need to add an ID field. Okay, so another word for attribute is field name. Let's put this like that. Okay, so here's the question. Does the attribute belong to the entity? Here's my question. If the answer is yes, happy days, no further action is needed. However, if the answer is no, I need to create a new entity, a new table with this attribute / field name, and I will also need to add an ID field. Now, before we go ahead with this rule, I must inform you that there is an exception to this rule. The exception to this rule is we must ask another question. Only if the attribute doesn't belong to the entity. I'm going to leave this red text again. I will say if attribute will have the ability to contain unlimited amount of data records, then we will say yes. Change this to green. No further action is needed. Okay, so let me explain this, what I just did here. We ask the question, does the attribute belong to the entity, to the table? If the answer is yes, no further action is needed. If the answer is no, I need to create a new entity, a new table with this attribute, with this field name. And I will also need to add an ID field. However, I'm just going to put here note. So this is my warning here. Note, if the attribute will have the ability to contain unlimited amount of records, then we will say yes. So this is the exception to the rule. No further action is needed. We're going to go ahead with that. So as I go through, this should make a bit more sense. Now, the first thing I need to say is, does the ID belong to the customer? The answer is yes. Each customer will have a unique identifier, a bit like a person with a criminal record. Criminal record belongs to this particular person. Now, does the first name belong to the customer? The answer is no. However, the first name could belong to the staff. So for example, David, we could have a staff called David, and we can have a supplier called David. However, because if the attribute will have the ability to contain a limited amount of records. Now, when it comes to first names, we have the ability to actually create names all the time. So we can call people Zuzu and Cuckoo and Lily and Tutu and whatever. We can go based on limited amount of names, which means that we have here the exception to the rule. If we have a limited amount of records, then we have to say yes. This is the exception to the rule. So, does the first name belong to the customer? The answer is yes, because of this. Now, the surname works exactly the same as the first name. So the surname, we could have loads of people with a surname White, or with a surname Brown, or with a surname Smith. And Smith could be the staff as well as the customer as well as the supplier. But because we have a limited amount of records when it comes to surnames, this again is exception to the rule. So first names and surnames is exception to the rule. There's some of the things that I'm going to discuss later on which are exception to the rules, like the address. The address could be 25 Green Road, but also we have 25 Green Road in Manchester, and we have 25 Green Road in Bury, and then we have 25 Green Road in London. So the address doesn't actually belong to the customer. The address could belong to the staff, because the staff and the customer might be living in a different town, in a different city. However, because when it comes to addresses, we have a limited amount of records on addresses, because as the developers actually get in a new marshland and developing new properties, we have new addresses and stuff, so it's very difficult for us to actually measure the amount of addresses exist out there. So therefore, we go back to this. If the attribute will have the ability to contain a limited amount of records, then we will say yes, no further action is needed. So this is what we're doing here. Now, the date of birth belongs to the customer. Now, again, the date of birth could belong to the staff as well. So the customer could be born in the same day as the staff, vice versa, and as the supplier. However, because when it comes to date of birth, we have a limited amount of dates of births out there, again, we follow in this exception to the rule. Postcode. Again, with the postcode, we have a limited amount of records. Again, is exception to the rule. The phone number. Now, the phone number is uniquely belong to the customer, so definitely, yes, no further action is needed. The telephone number belongs to this particular customer. The same with the mobile number. The mobile number is unique to this particular customer, so stay as it is. Now, the email address, again, belongs to the customer, so the email stays as it is. The fax belongs to the customer, again, stay as it is. Now, the title. The title, Mr., Mrs., Doctor, etc., etc., could belong to the staff, could belong to the supplier. However, because we don't have here unlimited amount of records for the title, we can actually measure them. We go through this section here. No, I need to create, does the attribute belong to the entity? The title doesn't belong to this entity. Why? Because it belongs to this entity, it belongs to this entity, and this entity as well. So what we need to do? I need to create a new entity, a new table with the attribute field name, and I will also need to add a primary key, an ID field. So what I need to do, I need to convert this to title ID. I'm going to highlight this, make it green, make it bold. I'm going to go further down and I'm going to create a new entity. And my new entity is TBL, title, and I'm going to have two attributes, ID and title. I'm going to make this bold, and I'm going to make it green as well. Now, does the nationality belong to the customer? No, the nationality could belong to the customer, the nationality could belong to the staff or to the supplier. Now, nationality can be measured, so therefore we're going to say nationality ID. Let's change the color slightly. I'm going to make it bold. Let's copy that. And we need to create a new entity, so TBL nationality, and we need to add ID, comma, nationality. Let's change the color here. So what I forgot to mention here to you is when I need to create a new entity with this attribute field, and I will also need to add the ID field. I'm just going to expand a little bit this. The entity, the attribute, the original attribute will stay in the same location as well, but I will need to add the ID after the entity attribute name. Oops. This is what I did. After the attribute name, I've added the word ID. Okay. Now we have a better understanding of what we just did. Let's do some practice to get more confidence of exactly how to normalize data from 1NF to 2NF. We have a few more other tables there. Let's press delete here. Now let's normalize TBL stuff. Does the ID belong to the staff? Yes. Does the address belong to the staff? Yes, because of the exception. Does the surname belong to the staff? Yes. Does the gender belong to the staff? No. The gender could belong to the customer, the gender could belong to the supplier. Now gender is measurable. So we have male, female, and other. So what we need to do here, we need to highlight this, make it black, bold. Let's change the color slightly. Let's change it to blue. Let's type ID here. Let's go down there, and I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to type here gender. I'm going to make it blue, and I'm going to put gender. Does the nationality belong to the staff? As you can see, nationality, we already create the table there before, so the only thing we need to do here is just change the color and add the word ID. So I'll just copy this from here. Does the phone number belong to the staff? Yes. Does the mobile number belong to the staff? Yes. Does the date of birth, supposed to be date of birth there. Does the date of birth belong to the staff? Yes. Does the emailing belong to the staff? Yes. Does the start date belong to the staff? Yes. Does the job title belong to the staff? No. The job title could belong to the supplier as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight this, change the color slightly to something else, and I'm just going to put the word ID. Change the color, make it bold. Let's copy that. So we need to create a new entity, TBL, job title, I'm going to put ID and job title. Let's move on. Leaving date, supposed to be here. Let's correct this. If things are not clear, you need to liaise with your client, or if it makes sense, if you're sure about it, you can actually make this correction yourselves. So leaving date belongs to the staff, a criminal record belongs to the staff, and attendance belongs to the staff. Again, the attendance, 1 day, 2 days, 50 days, 100 days, 1 million days, again goes back to the exception to the rule. Okay, TBL stuff is normalized now by using the 2NF process, partial key dependency test. Let's move on now to the supplier. Does the ID belong to the supplier? Yes. Does the contact name belong to the supplier? Yes. Does the contact here, we have contact and contact. This needs to be removed. Let's go here. Fail to remove this. That's fine. As you go progressing, you will be able to actually see that certain things that you missed from the no repeating attributes. So we had here contact name and then contact as well. Okay, so the ID belongs to the supplier, the contact name belongs to the supplier, the address belongs to the supplier, contract length belongs to the supplier, contact number, now contact and contact, okay, we're just going to change that to telephone number. Town, now town doesn't belong also to the supplier. The town could belong to the staff, the town could belong to the customer. So let's change that to bold. Let's change the color. Let's put ID. In here, TBL town, ID, town. Let's control enter. We have a new page. I like color coding my field names, my attributes, to make things easier later on. Now, does the rating belong to the supplier? Yes. Does the county belong to the supplier? The answer is no. Now, the county could belong to the staff, the county could belong to the customer. So I will say county ID. Let's make it bold. Let's change the color slightly. Say TBL county ID county. Let's change the color. Let's make it bold. Now, does the country belong to the supplier? No, the country could belong to the staff, the country could belong to the customer. So I'm just going to put here ID. Here I will say TBL country ID country. Let's make this bold. Let's change the color, dark blue. Dark blue bold. Now let's highlight the stuff. Make sure we have capitalized each word. Let's highlight here, capitalize each word. Capitalize each word here as well. And here, capitalize each word. Right. Okay, the supplier table is fully okay. The postcode belongs to the supplier, like we said before, because of the exception to the rule. We can have unlimited amount of postcodes. Okay, transaction. Does the ID belong to the transaction? Yes. Does the date belong to the transaction? Yes. Does the VAT number belong to the transactions? Yes. The quantity belong to the transactions? Yes. Does the product belong to the transactions? And the answer is no. The product doesn't belong to the transactions. We miss the product belongs to the actual product here. But because we already have a product table, the only thing we need to do here is just put product ID. Let's change the colors. The reason why we put product ID, so we can actually, when we link things, we can gather everything, all the details of each product through this ID field. Does the total amount belong to the transaction? The answer is yes. So we finish with this table as well. Finally, does the ID belong to the product? Yes. Does the name belong to the product? Yes. The quantity belongs to the product? Yes. Best before date belongs to the product? Yes. Description belongs to the product, and the price belongs to the product. And now what we have actually done, we have normalized the data from 1NF to 2NF by asking this question: does the attribute belong to the entity? If the answer is yes, no further action is needed. However, if the answer is no, I need to create a new entity with the attribute / field name, and I will also need to add an ID field. The original attribute, so the original attribute will stay in the same location as well, but I will need, so we have the entity created, nationality, but also the original attribute stay as it is, but I will need to add the ID. Let's put this after the attribute's name. And here's the exception to the rule. Note, if the attribute will have the ability to contain unlimited amount of records, for example, the name could have unlimited amount of different names, then we will say yes. No further action is needed. I hope you understood now how to convert 1NF to 2NF. If you haven't, please go through the video over and over again until the penny drops. Let's go now and let's highlight all the entities we created. And we're going to paste them now. We're going to copy them and we're going to paste them on 2NF to 3NF. And here we need to ask a question, a different question. Does the entity table A needs to be included on the table B? Let's make this bold. Let's change the colors. Let's make it red and green. Does the entity / table A need to be included on the table B? If the answer, I'm just going to put yes, and then I'm going to put no. So if it's yes, does the entity table A need to be included on the table B? Put entity. We need to get familiar with both terms. Entity table B. If the answer is yes, then I will need to create a new attribute on the entity table B. Let's make it bold, let's make it green. Okay, if the answer is no, no further action is needed. So this rule is pretty straightforward. Now, does the customer information need to be included on the staff? The answer is no. The staff don't care about the customer's information. Okay, the staff doesn't want to have their customer information onto their table. Okay, unless your database you're creating has to have, say for instance, salespeople. Now the salespeople need to be able to know the actual stuff that are dealing with. For example, stock market, stock exchange people, so that you have somebody who actually deals with particular customers. In this case, yes, you will have to put customer here, customer ID here. However, most of the tables, most of the databases, the customer information doesn't have to be included on the stuff. So, for this example, does the customer information need to be included on the stuff? No. And we say, if no, no further action is needed. If yes, we need to do something about it. And what we need to do is put a new attribute onto the table B. So, does the customer information needs to be included on the supplier? No. If the customer is included on the supplier, then the customer and the supplier will be able to know each other, so the customer will go direct to the supplier, so we'll lose money. So does the customer information need to be included on the transaction? Yes. The customer needs to be included on the transaction, so we know where to send the products. If we have to deliver the products to the customer's address, we need to have the customer address and the customer's details. So in this case, the answer is yes. I will need to create a new attribute on the entity table B. So here is my table A, and here is my table B. So what I need to do here, I need to create a new attribute called customer ID. I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to make it bold. I'm going to change the color slightly. Let's use purple. I'll change this color to purple as well. Does the customer information need to be included on the product? No. Does the customer information need to be included on the title? No. Does the customer information need to be included on the nationality? No. Gender? No. Job title? No. Town? No. County? No. Country? No. And I'm going through the next table now. Does the staff information need to be included on the customer? The answer is no. Does the staff information need to be included on the supplier? No. Does the staff information need to be on the transaction? Yes. We need to know, we need to record which staff serve this customer. So here we need to put comma, staff ID. I'm just going to highlight this, change the text to different color. Let's make this black, of the bold. Okay. Does the staff need to be included on the product? No. Does the staff need to be included on the title? No. Nationality? No. Gender? No. Job title? No. Town? No. County? No. Country? No. And let's move on now to the next one. Does the supplier information need to be included on the staff customer? No. So if it's no, remember, no further action is needed. Does the supplier need to be included on the staff? No. Does the supplier need to be included on the transaction? Now, if we added the supplier on the transaction, the customer will be able to see the supplier. So next time they will not come to us. They will go directly to the supplier. Does the supplier need to be included on the product? The answer is yes. So I'm going to put here supplier ID. Let's make it bold. Change the color. Let's change the color to the supplier as well. Does the supplier information needs to go to the title? No. Nationality? No. Gender? No. Job title? No. Town? No. County? No. And country? No. We finish now with the supplier. Does the transaction information needs to go to the customer? No. It's happening. The transaction needs to go to the staff. It's already happening. The transaction needs to go to supplier? No. The transaction needs to go to the product? Yes. So it's already happening. The transaction needs to go to the title? No. Nationality? No. Gender? No. Job title? No. Town? No. County? Country? No. We finish now with the transaction. Does the product information needs to go to the customer? The answer is no. Does the TBL product needs to go to the staff? No. Why? There is no reason for the product to go to the customer. There's no reason for the product to go to the staff. Now, does the product need to go to the supplier? It's already there. The connection is already there. You could actually put the product to the supplier or the supplier to the product. The link between the supplier and the product is already there. Does the product need to go to the transaction? Yes. We already put it this. Does the product need to go to the title? No. Nationality? No. Gender? No. Job title? No. Town? No. County? No. Country? No. We finish now with the product. Does the title, Mr., Mrs., Doctor, needs to go to the customer? Yes. It's already there. Let's copy this. Does the title need to go to the staff? Yes, we want to know if the staff is Mr., Doctor, Mrs., Ms., etc., etc. So if the answer is yes, I will need to create a new attribute on the entity B. So entity A is the TBL title. Does the title need to be included on the staff? The answer is yes. So on the entity B, I'm adding, on the entity B, I'm adding the attribute, title ID. Does the title need to be included on the supplier? Yes. Again, I need to know if the supplier is is Mr., Mrs., etc., etc. So yes, I will need to create a new attribute. So that's the new attribute. Does the title need to go on the transaction? No. Does the attribute need to go to the product? No. Does the title need to go to the product? No. Does the title need to go to nationality? No. Does the title need to go to gender? No. Job title? No. Town? No. County? No. Country? No. Let's move on now to the nationality. Does the nationality needs to go to the customer? Is already there. Does the nationality needs to go, let's copy this. Does nationality needs to go to the staff? Yes, we want to know the nationality of the staff. Because it's yes, I will need to create a new attribute on the entity table B. Okay. Does the nationality need to go to the supplier? Yeah, we can actually check the nationality of the supplier, the contact name for the supplier. Or we could get away without actually putting this. It's up to you. Does the nationality need to be included on the transaction? No. Does nationality need to be included on the product? Now, nationality for the product, we could have origins of the product, like Greek feta will come from Greece, so nationality is Greek. But for the products, we wouldn't use that. So does the nationality need to be included on the title? No. Nationality to be included on gender? No. Job title? No. Town? No. County? No. Country? No. The next one, gender. Does the gender need to be included on the customer? The answer is yes. Let's put here ID capitals. Save it. Type in this again, controls the copy. Okay. Does the gender need to be included on the customer? Yes, I need to know what gender my customer is. Does the gender need to be included on the staff? Yes, it's already there. Does the gender need to be included on the supplier? Yes, why not? So we know if it's a male or a female, the person we're speaking on the phone. Does the gender need to be included on the transaction? No. Does the gender need to be included on the product? No. Does the gender need to be included on the title? No. Nationality? No. Job title? No. Town? No. County? No. Country? No. Finish now with the gender. Job title. Does the job title need to be included on the customer? The answer is no. Does the job title need to be included on the staff? It's already there. Does the job title need to be included on the supplier? Yes. We want to know the person that we're speaking to on the other line, if he's the manager, if he's just the person who, on the phone, or if this person is the owner of the company. So job title, let's put here ID capitals. Let's put here, tidy up a little bit. Okay, let's put this here as well. Try to use capital so it stands out for the ID. Right, so does the job title need to be included on the transaction? No. Does the job title need to be included on the product? No. Does the job title need to be included on the title? No. No nationality, no gender, no town, no county, no country. Because it's no further action is needed. Next table, town. Does the town table need to be included on the customer? Yes. We want to know in which town our customer lives. So it doesn't really matter which order you're going to put. So put town ID there. Does the town need to be included on my staff? Yes. I need to know the town of my staff. Does the town need to be included on supply? Yes, it's already there. Does the town need to be included on the transaction? No. Does the town need to be included on the product? No. Does the town need to be included on the title? No. Nationality? No. Gender? No. Job title? No. Town? County? No. Country? No. The next one is county. Does the county need to be included on my customer? I have county here. Let's copy that here. Does the county need to be included on my customer? Yes. I want to know in which county my customer lives. Does the county need to be included on the staff? Yes. I want to know in which county my staff lives. Does the county need to be included on the supplier? Yes, it's already there. Does the county need to be included on transaction? No. Does the county need to be included on the product? No. Title? No. Nationality? No. Gender? No. Job title? No. Town? No. Country? No. Finally, the country. Does the country need to be included on my customer? The answer is yes. Let's put here country ID, capital ID. Does my country need to be included on the customer? Yes. Does the country need to be included on the staff? Yes. Does the country need to be included on the supplier? Yes. It's already there. Does the country need to be included on the transaction? No. If you develop a database system for McDonald's, so you have McDonald's in different countries, you could actually put this there. Let's put this. We could put this here. Okay. So we know that the transaction took place in. So say for instance, if I bought McDonald's Big Mac meal in Greece, and I had food poison when I came to UK, I could actually go to McDonald's and complain and show the receipt that I actually purchased Big Mac meal from Greece. But in this case, because we're developing a small database, so we're not going overseas, it's not needed. Does the country need to be included on the product? Again, we could put country origin of the product to find out which country the product came from. You could do. You don't have to. I'll put it there anyway. It's not harming anything. Does the country need to go to the title? No. Nationality? No. Gender? No. Job title? No. Town? No. County? No. And country? No. And now, by following this question, does the entity table A need to be included on the entity table B? If the answer is yes, I will need to create a new attribute. on the entity / table B. If no, no further action is needed. You might have to watch this video a few times, so just to summarize what we just did, we normalized data here. So we took data from a flat file database and we convert it from 0NF to 1NF by removing the repeating attributes. So customer this, customer that, staff this, staff that, supplier this, supplier that, everything, we put everything into its own entity. We also created IDs. 1NF to 2NF, we ask the question, does the attribute belong to the entity? Does the ID belong to the customer? Does the first name belong to the customer? Does the address belong to the customer? If the answer is yes, no further action is needed. If the answer is no, I need to create a new entity, a new table with the attribute field name, and I will also need to add an ID field. The original attribute will stay in the same location as well, but I will need to add the ID after the attribute's name. So here, the title doesn't belong to the customer. However, I'm leaving the word title there, I'm just adding the basically ID. This is what it means here. And then I'm creating a new entity called TBL table, and I put ID, title. I did the same here. Nationality doesn't belong to the customer only. Could belong to the staff, could belong to the supplier, which means that I put the word ID there, and I create a new entity. And by following the same process, we also talked about exception to this rule here. I think this is what makes it a little bit complicated. The whole normalization process, I think is complicated because of the exception to the rule on the 2NF. That's the only thing I can think of. The people, getting confused for, when they actually try to learn normalization. However, I think I've made it as clear as I could here. Practice a little bit more, keep watching the video a few times and until the penny drops. I promise you that that's all it is. So yes, no, and just exception to the rule. By following the same process, our data looks a bit much better. And then here, 2NF to 3NF, we follow in the no-key dependency test. Does the entity / table A need to be included on the entity table B? So basically, we'll look in the bigger picture. On the 2NF, we'll look in the smaller picture, the attribute to the entity, where here, on the 3NF, we'll look in the bigger picture. The entity A could be included on the entity B. If the answer is yes, I will need to create a new attribute on the entity table B. Okay, attribute, another word is field name, on the entity B. If the answer is no, no further action is needed. And as you can see here, let's Control Enter. I have, this is what we converted from this. With this now, we could start creating our entity relational diagram. Now, before I close this video, I stop this video, as a good practice, what I would like you to also understand is foreign keys and primary keys. The ID field on each table, we call it the primary key. If you're struggling to forget the difference between primary key and foreign key, a little trick for you to never forget again is this. The ID belongs to the customer, right? So anything else, any other ID, is a foreigner. So the only ID that is not a foreigner on the table is the ID that describes ID of the customer. All the other ID fields are foreigners. So in order for me not to forget this, I'm just going to call it ID, underscore FK for foreign key. Just going to put there ID underscore FK. ID underscore FK. ID underscore FK. ID underscore FK and ID underscore FK. What I'm going to do here, I'm just going to copy this and paste it there and there. That's why it helps when you actually color coding. Country, let's put it there. Country there, FK. County, FK. County, FK. Customer ID underscore FK. Because the customer here is a foreign key. That's the customer primary key here. So FK product ID underscore FK country underscore FK supplier underscore FK. Again, I know it's a bit boring watching me putting the foreign keys there, but it's good practice if you keep, I'll try to make it too difficult for you to forget. So underscore FK. So any ID that doesn't belong to the actual table is a foreigner. FK, and FK. Be like myself, I don't belong to England, I'm a foreigner. All my records, my main records are in Greece. So all the information that this government has for me is based on the foreign key, as my primary key is in Greece for all my records. Okay, this is it. So we have a primary key. Let's make it bold. Let's make it bright red. Let's double click Format Painter Brush. Let's do that. Whoops. Let's Ctrl Z to undo. Almost done. Okay, all are red here. We have product red as well, but all our reds here are primary keys, apart from the product ID FK. Yeah, this is it. This is how we convert 0NF to 1NF to 2NF and to 3NF. By the time you finish, you complete the 3NF, your data should look like a rainbow. In the next tutorial, I'm going to discuss entity relational diagrams, and I promise you it will not take as long as the normalization process took. We managed to explain the normalization process in less than an hour. Please watch this video a couple times if needed. Normalization is the most difficult part to understand and learn in order to become a database developer. However, once you understand that, then sky is your limit. Thank you for watching. Speak to you soon.